Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Remote Podcast. For today's episode, we have with us Nicole Kaba. She's a founder at Avvinue. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thanks so much, Pushpak. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate you welcoming to the channel.
Awesome. So let us begin with an introduction about yourself and what exactly you do, and about Avvinue as well.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. Well, you might notice that I have an American accent.
Yeah.
So I am an American with Dominican roots, and I've been living in France for the past 2 years. And this has actually transcended into what we've actually built in our startup called Avvinue, which is a relocation and moving marketplace to really help people, guide people through the entire process of moving, whether it's domestically or internationally. And we've been really excited to launch such a great platform that's helping people all around the world. And so from my experience of moving, we've been excited to build something that really means something for people, especially in the remote working space. Yeah.
So actually, I have noticed this. A lot of people from United States, like who are into remote space, they like try to move to Europe. I don't know why. I have noticed this. Is there any reason you moved to like France? What was the reason?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure in terms of everyone's reason for moving is very different. In terms of my own personal move, it definitely was looking for adventure. I also come from an immigrant family, so I think that those who've experienced different cultural upbringing are also inclined to experience living abroad themselves. So I definitely say that's contributed. Why France? I like to say that France chose me and not me choosing France, but it's worked out really well. But definitely saw an opportunity to move to Europe and through a French tech visa option, and that's what landed me here.
Awesome. So how exactly Avenue works, and like how did you come up with the idea actually? And was there any reason you came up with this, and how it exactly works, how it could help people?
Yeah, so we actually came up with Avvinue after relocating to France. So when I moved, I found myself spending a lot of time just trying to research all over, and articles, blogs, YouTube channel, everywhere, just trying to understand exactly the process and the steps to move, to get a visa, to actually get settled. And I realized that there wasn't really a clear path in how exactly to move. And so seeing that, and after moving here, I heard so many other people experience the exact same thing. Like they all just shared, yes, it was difficult. Yes, it was hard to understand like what was needed. I needed this, and then I needed that. And so it really was like a light bulb moment of, oh my goodness, there actually is a big problem. There's a challenge that people are experiencing, and that's where I started trying to figure out, how can I solve this problem? Like, how can our team find a solution for people to not spend so many hours researching, but actually have step-by-step guidance. So we actually launched our application, which is available for anyone to download on iOS, Android, all around the world. And basically what we provide people, this was the first thing we provided, was the step-by-step checklist on what you should do when you move. And so we took into account country, different regulations. We took into account interdependencies between steps that you should take. And then, of course, we had our expat community, international community really help us create these checklists, because they experience in different countries, what that process looked like. And so it was really exciting. We launched our application in March. And since then, we've had thousands of people download the app and use it for planning out their entire move. And so it's been a really exciting journey. And we're continuing to build out features and ways to help people move.
Right. So let's take an example. Like right now I'm in India, and I want to travel. I want to move to Europe, to Italy, or like to France, right? So like if I download the app, then like all the information will be provided to me, or like there will be a consultant from your side, like will be getting on a call, or you'll be explaining to me everything, or everything is available on the application itself. How does it actual process work?
Yeah. So, okay. So step by step. So let's say you download the app right now and you
Mm,
select where you're moving from, where you're moving to, who's moving with you, when you're moving. This information is really important because it actually allows us to create your own customized checklist. So for example,
mhm.
if you're moving with a pet or if you're moving with children. So once you add
Okay.
this information, we now calculate what is recommended for your moving checklist. Then from
Okay.
there, we pre-populate your entire checklist on things we recommend. So for example, you mentioned, okay, so from India, let's say to Germany.
Mhm.
Now we're telling you the first step may be speak with an immigration lawyer in order to identify what are the visa options available if you haven't
Okay.
already identified a visa.
Mm.
So that will be, so a lot of things we've done that are self-guided, but we do have a personal moving assistant that you can select as a service so that you can have someone actually guide you. So we wanted to make sure that the app is very much self-guided, but if
Mm.
you need additional assistance, you can have one of our personal moving assistants guide you through the entire process. So then once you, let's say, for example, you select, okay, speak with an immigration lawyer, we actually now connect you with an immigration lawyer. So we take into
Mhm.
account where you're moving from, where you're moving to, your nationality, and then match you with an immigration lawyer in Germany. And so
Oh,
you'll immediately be able to see, okay, in
right, right, right,
Germany, here's the price for that
mm,
consultation, and now I can actually do that next step. So we
right.
have the full experience that, yes, you get the checklist, but beyond the checklist, you can actually coordinate the logistics of the move.
Yeah, it's like when you suggest like talk to a lawyer, then I don't need to do it myself. Like I don't need to find it myself. Like you will be suggesting that. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. I thought that you're just suggesting that lawyer, then I will have to find a lawyer in Germany. I think yeah, this is
No.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the main thing. The first step for us was really how can we help people know what to do? And then the next step was how can we help people actually do it?
right,
And so
right,
that's
right.
why we built out now our entire marketplace
Mm,
where you can now see, okay, here's the immigration lawyers that we've already vetted. We've actually
oh,
onboarded each immigration lawyer. We've spoken with each one so that they can now, you can now know exactly, okay, this is a good company that I can talk to or
wow, wow.
immigration lawyer that I could work with. So
This must
yeah.
have taken a lot of time. Like before launching the app, you must have been like working for a year for this. Like how much time it took to you to build this entire ecosystem?
Yeah, it has taken a lot of time. So we actually launched in 2019, but we
Mm-hmm.
didn't launch our application until
Right, right,
March.
right. Mm-hmm.
So we did have a lot of time to build out those relationships with companies. We've been looking at different regions. We have had emphasis on those to make sure that we do have like a really great supplier network that uses our application so that you can communicate with them directly on the app. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it has taken some time.
Right, 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 right. Awesome. So do you have any competitors, and like how are you competing with them? How do you plan to compete with them?
Yeah, so I think any startup can find a competitor. So I'd say yes, we do. They're a little bit more indirect. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
say what's different between us and some competitors in the market is that for one, we are international since day one. That has been
Right.
very key for us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas many competitors we find are very specific to a country. For example, in the US, they'll have their own specific domestic
Got it.
related
Mm-hmm.
moving solutions, but not international. And I think it takes someone who's moved internationally to understand how complex moving
Right.
internationally is. And that's something that we definitely differentiate ourselves. Another way is that we also have our suppliers that use our entire system. So what some other companies do is now they do an affiliate. So
Mm-hmm.
they have the options available. Let's say here's immigration lawyers, but now you have to go on their website. Now you have to fill out their form. And what
Right,
we've
right, right.
actually done is we've created the process where now instead of you filling out like 10 forms, you just fill it out once. And now
Mm-hmm.
we connect you with the right supplier or the right company to work on that.
Got it.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are two big differentiators for us. There's more, but I mean, we
Yeah,
could go
yeah.
on for a while.
Right, right, right. Understood. Yeah. So actually, I was thinking you started this in 2019, right? Like at the 2019, the
Mhm.
pandemic started basically, right? And like and you are into like moving space, like basically remote space, like people need to travel, like move from one place to another state, and we were all at stuck most of the time. Like I think recently people started going out and moving out. So like how did you
Mhm.
like acquire customers, like because like people are still, I think people still are not open to travel to like internationally, like so like
Mhm.
how was that experience to you? Like I think that was like that might be a big challenge to you. So yeah, how did
Yeah.
it all go?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think myself, along with any other startup founder that was directly impacted by the pandemic, did see a very big shift. I think a lot of founders had to decide, do we kind of struggle through it, or do
Mm-hmm.
we pivot? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs had to make that decision. Some of them even closed business. It's sad to see like a lot of companies that closed. For us, we actually took that time to build out our supplier relationship. So we did um, leverage that time for that. And also we were able to work on more of our enterprise clients. So we do have, for example, an entire B2B white labeled solution that companies have actually approached us about. How can we use Avvinue software for relocating our customers or our employees? And so we've actually taken that time to build out those more enterprise level companies for us in terms of like growing. So that's how we really took that time. We even, for example, we launched a podcast.
Okay.
We doubled down on content.
Mm-hmm.
We really tried to make the most of that time when there weren't as many customers as
Wow.
pre-pandemic. But now we're starting to see that pick up again. And
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly, also saw a shift in the type of movement. So kind of like you mentioned, before the pandemic, a lot of people were moving, they were more open to moving. But after now, this kind of aftermath of the pandemic, and we know it's still strong in different places
Yeah, yeah.
around the world, but there's a different kind of movement. We've actually seen that some people actually return to their home country,
Mm-hmm.
which is still a movement, but
Right.
a lot of people, it's a different type. And so I think before people would think of a new relocation, but now we actually saw a lot of moves back to people's home country. And same thing, there was also Brexit. Brexit
Yeah, yeah.
actually increased a lot of different moves.
Mm-hmm.
And so we saw a different shift. Also now, for example, in the remote space, we're seeing digital nomad visas come out,
Right.
which are huge. Like the fact that many countries, I think now it's like 23, I believe, countries that have launched digital nomad or remote working visas. The fact that
Right,
they
right.
work that quickly
Mm-hmm.
is very impressive, because the immigration world is a little slow to innovate. But the fact that they launched these just now shows like there will be a new shift in people moving. And so that's something that we've been keeping in mind in our product and in the services that we offer. Is like there is a new type of mover. They may
Mm-hmm.
not be long term, but they're
Right,
short
right.
term and they still have certain needs. And that's really where we're trying to make sure we can capture and provide a solution for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like you didn't, like you kept going even at the time of pandemic, and like actually you had to believe in it basically, like because like some of us were like, I like maybe the new normal will stay, and the like things would like never come back to normal, right? And you still believe in, I think that's a really great thing, and it's like one of the very important things, skills to have as a founder, I guess. So
Perseverance, yes.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's not easy. It's when you see the world change, many of us have never experienced anything like the
right,
pandemic.
right.
So it just was, we have no idea, we're taking a risk. It was risky.
Yeah, it
But
was.
we really believe in what we were doing, and we knew like no matter what, even for example in after 2008 recession, for example, in the US or
Mm,
different places, there's still, even after the recession, there was still international movement. So we were
right,
looking at those trends to say, even in a global pandemic, there still will be movement. It's not
right,
like
right.
nobody will ever move again. And so it really meant that we had to believe, obviously, in what we're building, but know that if we build this now, we'll be ready for when there is a lot of movement again. And that I think is what we decided, you know, and I think that's worked out really well for us there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So are you guys fully remote as a company, or like?
Yes,
Awesome.
we believe in people should live where they feel most fulfilled. So that applies for our team. If 1 month you want to be here and next month you want to be somewhere else, it's all about what you deliver. And I think that's important for any remote team. And so we stand behind that. We should be remote, and you can live where you want to live.
Awesome. So what do you think about like the future of work, and where do you think this is going? Like people are talking about hybrid work, and some companies are maybe going back to offices, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's definitely a trending topic for sure. You know, I think every company has to decide what's best for them. I actually was working remotely for a Fortune 100 company before, and I know the challenges that a company is faced with in terms of, you know, their culture, their taxes, their hiring processes. So I know that the larger the company, the harder the decision it is for them.
Right.
But we've also seen some companies make really drastic changes to be fully remote, hybrid. Where I see things are going, definitely, I think there's going to be the shift to working remotely. What that will look like in the next several years, I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball and I could tell you, but it's definitely nice to see that because of the pandemic, a lot of people, a lot of employers are seeing that the quality of your work has nothing to do with where you're working at, whether it's you're working at home or you're working by the beach or you're working, I mean, of course, I only say that because there's always like this view of, oh, if you're working, you must be by the beach, which is not true. But, you know, that you can still deliver quality work and still have great work-life balance. And I think that the society is viewing that and recognizing that. And I think that over time, we'll all be working remotely. And I think it's going to change the way we view work and life. I think there will be a better blend of that.
Yeah, I think remote work gives, like, you know, people a lot of opportunities to spend time with family, and I think especially to women as well. Like in India, we have observed that like after women get married, or like once they have a kid, so they have to leave their job, right? But if remote works comes out there, then they could have a flexible lifestyle, so they can do their work and they can take care of family as well. So this is one of the example. Like there are a lot of things with, like, you know, this could be revolution. Like if
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think that what there will be more of is support around how to have a successful remote working experience, because many of us were pushed into remote working because of the pandemic. And so they never got to set up certain best practices. And I think that it's gonna require a lot of setting, how do you say, more like setting a standard for yourself, having more of structure so that you can have a healthy work from home lifestyle, because some people, they don't like working from home.
Yeah.
You know, there's challenges. I mean, you just mentioned being able to work from home, but what happens when you have children there and you have to watch your children while working? So I think that there's going to be more guidance into how to really do this well. And I think that, you know, companies, startups are trying to solve this problem. And I think that's good because, you know, in order for it to be successful, there does need to be a lot of support.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there are roles coming up as remote head, and like, and you know what, like a lot of companies, like the pandemic started and we had no other option to, like, you know, to work from home. But like, I think now that's why people got, like, they were suffering from mental health, like they didn't know how exactly to work, right? Like I think there must be a proper guidance, and I think there is out there right now. A lot of people are talking about it, like how to go about it. So I think people are gonna get used to working from home properly, I guess, in future.
Yeah, definitely.
So what did you learn from starting the company, which you wouldn't have learned from anywhere, any kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, starting a company. Well, I think that one thing I've learned the most in my entrepreneurial journey is that you can never stop launching. I think there's a
Okay.
saying of you're always launching. There's not just one official launch. You're testing things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, since I come from a corporate sector side, I was a technical project manager. So it's very common that you build something,
Mm-hmm.
spend months, sometimes even a year building something and then launching it to the public. Whereas in the startup world, it's actually very different. You're always iterating, you're always fine tuning, you're always learning for your customer what actually will be good for them. So I'd say in the startup journey, I've learned to change the way I think or the way I approach developing, from the sense of don't just build what you think, but actually launch bits and pieces so that you end up giving your customers what they really want. So that's something that I've learned. Also, context switching, that's huge. As a founder, I'll have calls, let's say in the morning, talking about legal. Then
Right.
I'm talking to a customer. Then the next
Mm-hmm.
call is now I'm talking about the VAT system in our marketplace. Then I'll talk to a supplier. And so there's so much change of
Mm-hmm.
context
Yeah, yeah,
that you
yeah.
really have to be alert. You have to be ready. And and I love it actually. Like, I think it took me to the next level of being very dedicated and understanding all
Mm-hmm.
the elements of what it takes to launch a startup. So I'd say that's been really important for me, is understanding how to plan my day, how to arrange my schedule, because a lot of us use Calendly, we use these tools,
Right,
but
right.
it doesn't really help you in like how you schedule. And so really putting together like what works for me
Mm-hmm.
has been very helpful. And because of the context switching that
Right,
happens.
right, right.
So
So is it your first startup? Are you this is the first time founded?
so I have launched a business before, and I say business, not startup, because
Mm-hmm.
I have launched a business. This was when I was in the US,
Okay.
which was more around wedding planning,
Okay.
and also doing like some public relations work, web
Mm-hmm.
development. And so I've actually gone through my experience of launching those, which are more service based.
Right, right.
And then this is my second tech startup. So I did launch a product. I won't even call it was a startup. I launched
Mm-hmm.
a product,
Mm-hmm.
which is very different than launching a startup. And now is where I really feel like we've launched a startup. We have customers, we have investors. And so I think that's well as an entrepreneur and in my startup.
Right. Got it. So I have like three more questions for you if you have time for it. Your top two favorite books and your top two favorite remote tools, like which personally helped you.
Remote tools. And what was the last part?
Books. Maybe one book would work. Yeah, one book which you really like, and remote
Okay.
tools which you, yeah.
Okay. I'd say my favorite book is actually called The Culture Map, which is very relevant actually for my space,
Okay.
in terms of international experience and different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think this book, The Culture Map, should be read by every single person, because especially in the remote space, when working with people that are from a different cultural background, it's super important to understand their thought process, or different cultural norms. And actually, with our team, we've gone through some of the exercises, and they're really great, because it allowed us to understand which cultures are maybe more strict, which cultures are maybe they read through the lines,
Right, right.
and so I think that's super important, for our team, for a remote team. Highly recommend. It's a really great book. And in terms of, let's say, my favorite remote tools, so I am an absolute fan of Airtable. I love, 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 love Airtable. Like if I actually had to work for a company that I'm super passionate about, I would say it's Airtable. They have such an amazing tool that allows you to customize so many different things. I've used Airtable like as a database. Or to manage database. I use it for forms. I use it for planning, for tracking, so many different things. Airtable is definitely number one. The other remote tool I'd say would be, I think a lot of people know about Calendly and scheduling. It definitely saves time. It's not culturally acceptable in many countries, but it is something that certainly helps save time in scheduling. And then another would be Slack, which is very common as well. So I feel like these three, they're really big and known out there. I'm trying to think of other tools that maybe are not commonly recognized. But yeah, those three are really great. So highly recommend them.
Yeah, I heard about Slack and another, but Airtable I heard about first time only. I don't know. I never heard about Airtable.
Oh, well, hopefully I convinced you.
Yeah, I'll surely check it out. Yeah.
It's very great. I highly recommend.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I think thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for giving your time. I think we really had a nice discussion. Like our listeners would gain a lot of insights on remote work, and if they want to move from one place to another, I think this would be a super helpful podcast for them, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me, and it was great speaking about Avvinue and what we've built for people moving. And also, let's see how the remote work continues in the world. I'm excited for the future, and thank you.